Okay, so with that, we will have a public hearing at the second meeting in October, which is October 23rd, during the regular meeting at 6 p.m. Okay, thank you. Old business, budget discussion.
Ian, would you mind bringing up that PowerPoint? There's a couple items in your packets tonight here, and we've got some staff here as well who are going to be talking a little bit about their budgets in more detail, and they want to be available to answer any questions you have. Obviously, council's well aware of general fund budget, general fund, and the other non-revenue generating enterprises. So we have, for example, Park and Rec is here tonight, streets, library. I don't know if we'll have Josh present. You do have the fire department and the police department's handouts for some clarification on there. One of the things I worked on this year was creating a new PowerPoint here for us to have for the public as well as for council. A lot of it is stuff that you know, and I won't go through it tonight because I will go through it at our preliminary hearing. Just wanted you to have that in your packets. You can kind of take a look at it, and I think it's a good breakdown for folks who are maybe not as familiar as you are with where things go and how things work with the budget. You also have a couple other items in there. There's the budget guide for cities from the League of Minnesota City. We also included the current valuation information from the county, and of course that's running last year. We haven't received the 24 issue yet. We don't typically get that until later in the year. And then we also included the Moody's guidance on our portfolio, our strength of our economy, and our budgetary strength, as well as a draft budget, expenditures budget. So with that, what I do have is I have a couple folks, like I said, department heads who are here to talk about their budgets in particular. Ben, do you want to start off? Is that okay? So if you want to come up here, you sure can. I don't know if you have handouts for council or not, but...
So I guess I'll start with the Aquatic Center. The biggest item for the Aquatic Center is the refinishing of the water slides. That cost is roughly $44,000. That's a pretty substantial cost, but it's something that needs to get done. The other thing is, most of you know that the pool heater in the activity pool went out this year. It's 12 years old. I'm having the lap pool looked at, but the cost for the activity pool was $14,000 to repair. A new one is $35,000. So there's some substantial costs to maintaining that pool now that it's as old as it is. And I have, so this was set in place by Ronnie, but this is the Lemmy Jones contract, where it kind of lays out some of the things that we would be doing. I mean, obviously it's not highlighted, but it's the one that says March 2024. It's the water slide interior buff and wax. So that's the one that I want to do. That's more of a, I guess it's not an aesthetic thing, it's more of making sure that the slide operates as it should, and the seals in the slide. So I guess if anyone has any questions on that, I can help answer any of them, otherwise I'll move on to the park stuff.
So can you, that last part you're talking about, the $14,000, that's that toddler slide refinish?
No, the $14,000 was what we paid to fix the water heater in the activity pool this year.
I gotcha. Okay.
So I'm actually having Superior come out and look at the heater for the other pool to try to avoid some of that cost.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
But just to elaborate on how old our pool's getting and wore out.
Cool, yeah.
How long does that interior buff and wax last, does Lemmy Jones think?
You know, I would say, you know, we haven't done anything to that slide for 12 years. So I would say 10 years.
Okay.
I haven't reached out to him yet until we move forward from this, but...
Can we do that again in 10 years, or is that where you start to look at?
I think you can, as long as, so the way he explained it to me last year is, as long as we catch it in time, that it's not wearing through the fiberglass or anything like that, that slide is fine. You know, otherwise it's, you know, $200,000 to replace an entire slide. And I don't think we want to go down that road. Otherwise we just take it out. So.
I just asked because if it's $44,000 to buff it and wax it once and we end up doing it twice, it's about a little less than half of what you pay for a new one. And if it's a 10-year process to redo it, I'm just curious.
I mean, it brings up a larger point. I know that Ben and I have discussed the bond issuance for the aquatic center is, I think it's scheduled to terminate in 2027. And so going into that year, probably actually in the next year and a half or so, either Park and Rec or some kind of subcommittee or something, we'll probably start talking about what we want to do in terms of renovations at the pool. A lot of that's going to include the interior gutting, you know, the mechanical is probably number one, but I mean, being a pool user myself, I know that there's some needs with the concrete. There's some concrete failure points that are starting to show, as well as just the exterior, getting the panels resealed and things like that. There's some things. And then we may want to do some stuff inside of the pool building itself too, not just mechanical. You may have some improvements to bathrooms, things like that. Things have changed a little bit. Or any other adds that somebody might want to make to the pool. Do we want to continue with what we've got? Do we make any changes to the items that are there? But I know we've discussed that, and the goal would probably be for us to try and get to that point with, I don't want to call it Band-Aiding it, but to a certain degree, it's more cost-effective for it to Band-Aid and then to do one larger kind of renovation project where we can kind of bid it out and say, okay, contractor's going to take care of this one and see part of the project. And then we can roll that into a bond issuance instead of putting it into our operations budget. I mean, there's never going to be enough money to, $44,000 for just buffing slides. You want to buy a new slide or you want to buy a new piece of equipment, you're looking at $200,000, $300,000. It just isn't effective in a budget, because we can't, as a city, we're not going to make that jump every year, so.
Anything else? So the next thing would be for park plans for next year. This was something that I'd kind of been working on ever since I received the position. Northeast Ball Diamond is lonely and there's nothing out there. So I did get a couple estimates for modulars. The one that I would like to move forward with, is from Burke Equipment. Well, it's St. Croix Fun and Playgrounds, but it's $65,000. It includes the 2 through 12 play structure, swings, and then the additional cost for about $10,000, I would say, is the border and the wood chips, and then everything else that comes with it. My guys are more than capable of installing equipment like this. We did Meadowland Park, but for them to install it, it's about $13,000 to do that. So that would be my next, I guess, goal or project that I would like to go with.
There's been a lot of people in that area asking for it.
Sure.
Where's the
And it would go in that empty space between the parking lot and the road, correct?
Yes.
So on their aquatic center and park, is there, okay. Give me 1 second, Ben, I'm trying to find the
Yep.
right page here. Okay, all right.
Does the 65 have, it says without instruction installed, thank you.
Right.
Yep.
And so like this fall they have deals, sales on equipment, and in the spring they have sales on equipment. So what we see here is what we looked at, but there might be something that comes on for sale. I don't know what it would turn into, but it'd be cheaper. But my goal is to have something at 2 through 5 or 2 through 12 playground set instead of 2 different modulars where it's 2 through 5 and 5 through 12. I mean, it's not North Park where it's that heavily trafficked, but we need something out in that area. Because currently we have Tot Lot, which is older than most people here, to be honest.
Tot Lot.
Sand Park or whatever it's called. And then the other thing I want to add, which isn't a huge expense, but I would like to add a handicap restroom at Lions Park next to the playground from Sean Kelly's Affordable Portables. I'd say it's probably another extra $100 a month. That is a highly trafficked park, especially by kids, and our only restroom is currently by the pickleball court. So that would be a major need. And then, I guess, future plans, we were visited by a pickleball group, really requesting more courts. They liked the one at Lions Park. You know, unfortunately, when that was built, we had enough money for just one court. So back when Ronnie built that court, that was $20,000. And that covered the blacktop, the fencing, the nets, the posts. We did most of the digging and that work. So I would say realistically, we'd want at least 3 more courts to make that. Now, the fencing would probably come down because you're gonna be connecting a lot of those courts instead of having it, you know, fully fenced. But that's just something I wanna do in the future, that's not next year, and
Something we could start setting money aside each year.
yeah, you know, that wasn't on Ronnie's master plan for Lions Park. I don't know if he realized how big pickleball was gonna turn into.
Yeah. And some of that, we'll have to talk about it at the next joint ventures. Did some of that come from joint ventures for the pickleball
A
too?
little bit of it
A
did.
little-
I think that was more for the basketball part of it.
All for Raymond?
Yeah.
Yeah, for Braxton, okay, yep. Got it.
Annabelle is building 2 since the last park board meeting, sounds like they are.
Okay,
Planning-
so that'll buy us some time anyway,
They're
maybe.
in works of building 2.
Another thing would be, a shelter out East Diamond. That's roughly gonna be about 15,000, and that would be the size of like Meadowland Park's shelter, so it's plenty big enough for 4 or 6 picnic tables. And as most of you guys know, you guys were approached by the gentleman that was looking for the dog park. Park board's talked about it, we have some possible locations, but there again, that's $20,000 for fencing for what I had mapped out. And that's just fencing, that's not anything else that would be included in that. I don't know how big of a need that is right now, or in the upcoming years, it's just something that would be on my radar for that area where we have all the apartments. And then, the last thing, which isn't quite as expensive, but a basketball hoop at Meadowland Park. Most of you guys know that that parking lot is completely finished now. It looks great. One thing that could, you know, make it even better would be what we did at East Diamond and put a basketball hoop in the parking lot. That's about $1,000 for what we had at East Diamond. So I guess I have a lot of plans for the parks.
Mention the Veterans Memorial?
We'll get to that.
So far you've got the basketball hoop at Meadowland Park, the dog park, handicap accessible, that's the operations thing at Lions Park. Pickleball courts times 3, and
Yep.
the East Diamond shelter.
Yep.
Okay.
And those are future
Those are
plans.
future.
Yep.
These are all things you want to do in the future, not necessarily in the 25 budget.
Correct. The one that I want to do in the 25 budget is the modular at Northeast Park.
Got it.
Yep.
And the Aquatic Center.
And the Aquatic Center
Aquatic
stuff.
Center, yeah.
Yep. And then with the streets budget, we had increased our blacktopping 10,000, from 10,000 to 20,000. I was introduced to mastic sealing. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it. We got a little tutorial from Byron that does it. It would help in spots where we have chip seal that has pulled off, like in the cul-de-sacs, and some of those larger cracks. If you were to go down 5th Avenue Northeast, you know, we can repair some of those major cracks that are, you know, an inch or so wide. I would like to start trying to do that next year as a trial. It's probably about $10,000 for the material and the machine to rent for a week, and we would try to work with Byron where we would get it right after them and maybe, you know, work in unison on that. The other thing is snow and ice. We increased the budget for operating supplies. I would like to start using more salt. We have, not that salt sand doesn't work, I think people like to see that, but it doesn't work as well as salt. I have a pretty good background in snow removal, and we are starting to see the ugly side of using that much sand. We've had We are on our second outfall for storm that we are digging out from silt buildup. So it might alleviate that. I'm not looking to salt the entire town, but emergency routes, the school, Main Street, stuff where we wouldn't have to sweep quite so much. And then I know that last meeting you guys had talked, Tim had brought up the flail mower. And you guys had some concerns or questions with that. So you guys got the two bids, the one that was whatever, 36, and the one that was 29,000. To answer some of your questions as far as no one uses those, the county doesn't have one, Byron doesn't have one, Manorville doesn't have one. They are not interchangeable for tractors. Once it's set up for our tractor, it's set up for our tractor because it's wiring harness that have to go into the cab. That, I understand that that's a large expense. They do make a skid loader boom flail mower, and I actually talked with Joe from Manorville, and they were looking into one. He was looking at one that only goes out probably 4 feet outside your skid loader. I found one that goes out just as much as our tractor, but that also carries a cost of $26,000. I have to do more research as far as what size skid loaders that fits on, but that would be something that Joe would use, we would use, and it's interchangeable between skid loaders, so it might be something we could go in, collectively on. But as of now, I will get more research on that, and so that it would be nice to have it. If we can't get it, we'll just maintain them the way we have, but we are getting more and more of these ponds that are gonna need to be maintained. And then the last thing is the Veterans Memorial.
Hey, Ben, before you go into that,
yeah,
could
sorry.
you, I know that I've had people in the community ask, what do we need this mower for? Can you describe what you guys have had to do to
So,
take care of it?
right now, we have a handful of ponds that we mow with a zero turnaround, and we can only get so far into them. Along with that creek bed that runs through, 57, one major pond that I noticed that we'll probably be taking over is Willow Lane, right off 34 there. That's a lot bigger than what we've dealt with, and for us to even get it down to mowable, we need a tractor. So, for instance, we have a mower that runs PTO off the back of our tractor currently. It took us 2.5 days to mow the creek, where normally with the flail mower, it took us half a day. That flail mower, that was another question, is how long did it last? So one of the guys, the more senior guy that I have in my department's been here for 10 years. He said it was there long before him, and it just broke down, I think, last year. So, you get some use out of them. The one thing is with, I was talking with the guys at work, they said, Ronnie and all those guys went down to South Dakota to get this piece of equipment, where the guys that I've looked with or talked to, got estimates from, they can service them, whether it's in Northfield or, St. Joseph equipment. So I want to make sure that we can get, if we buy something like this, that it's easy to get serviced if we can't fix it ourselves.
Can you do foliage or anything else around the ponds that would alleviate some of the tall grasses?
What do you mean? Oh, you mean like planting something?
Could you plant trees or?
I suppose you could.
I didn't know if that's something you had thought about. Aesthetically appealing, and it might slow down the growth of...
It is, but it's hard to mow around when we have to mow.
Yeah.
So that would be my only...
Yeah. Otherwise, they're pretty wide open, it seems like,
Yeah.
around most of them.
It'd just be nicer to get lower to the water level where we're not getting mowers stuck and things like that, so... Anything else?
Do you need to get lower, or you want?
Yes, we need, yes.
I just look at the pond next to us, and we like the aesthetics of the tall grass, the neighbors do. I
But
didn't know
you
if
still
that-
gotta be able to get the water